Kamala Harris is in trouble. Her whole campaign is in huge trouble. And it's just information is coming out left and right. I mean, there's going to be a goal of the press soon to actually start editing this information to avoid this. I mean, that's what they did with Joe Biden, Hunter Biden's laptop. And I think they're going to do the same thing. But the information just keeps coming out in droves. And I think the other problem that Kamala Harris is going to have is that she's not real popular with certain groups of certain bureaucracies. So this came from the Daily Wire. Data from the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, that was released this week show that hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens in the United States are serious criminals. Representative Tony Gonzalez, Republican from Texas, released the data as Vice President Kamala Harris was set to make her first serious visit to the border, where she is responsible for the administration's disastrous policies that have led to more than 10 million illegal aliens pouring into the United States. A couple of things. This is not a serious visit by Kamala Harris. It is a picture. That's all she's there is for pictures. You know, a photo op. Second thing, she did make a speech. The speech was okay. I mean, if she actually did something at the border, the speech would have been excellent. But, I mean, she's done nothing at the border, so suddenly screaming about how tough you're going to be on the border seems, well, I mean, you've been vice president. You were border czar. So it's hard to take it seriously when we know what she's done in the last 4 years. And as far as going to the border, I mean, she could have done that in the last 3.5 years. As a matter of fact, a lot of people were asking, why didn't she do that in the last 3.5 years? It seems to me that would have been something you should have done already. But of course she doesn't. And of course no one asks. A lot of people, a lot of the press was basically saying that they're ignoring this story. And a lot of the folks with the criminals coming over the border, and by the way, 10 million, that's a guess. We think it's probably a lot more because you got the gotaways. So you could sit there and add another 5 to 10 million on top of that. I mean, Trump is saying 25 million have been allowed into the United States. Guess what? That's as good a guess as, I think it's a closer guess than 10 million. Okay, quote, as of July 21st, 2024, there were 662,566 non-citizens with criminal histories on ICE's national docket, which includes those detained by ICE and on the agency's non-detained docket, which means these people weren't detained. So not only were they illegal aliens, they're criminals in their country, and they were released. Said Patrick J. Lecklider, Deputy Director and Senior Official performing the duties of the Director for ICE, in a letter to Gonzalez. Quote, of those, 435,719 are convicted criminals, and 226,847 have pending criminal charges, he added. So what are you learning from this? Countries like Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, Venezuela, Brazil, all these countries, they're not sending us their doctors and lawyers. They're not sending us their educators. They're sending us their criminals so they don't have to deal with them. Trump has said this now for the last 4 months. That's exactly what's happening. The data included a chart that listed the charge, if the illegal alien was detained, and if they were convicted or had pending charges. Now, what's amazing about this also, they know about these people. They know about their charges. Do you know how hard it is to vet any of these people? Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, these countries don't have real records of anybody. Venezuela, they really don't. But now, you remember a couple months ago, I said an article where one guy was a member of the South Peruvian mob, and was wanted for 23 murders in Peru, and he was in the United States. And not only was he in the United States, not only did he get here under the Harris-Biden administration, but he was caught and he was released. And then they finally found out, oh shit, he's a convicted murderer and he's wanted for 23 murders. He's a hitman. Maybe we got to get him back. They finally caught him and deported him. But they actually released his ass into the country. The most disturbing stats were the number of criminals convicted of serious crimes who are not detained because of Democrat sanctuary city policies, including, here we go, arson, 792, assault, 62,231, burglary, 14,301, dangerous drugs. You got to assume those are also the dealers and the mules. 56,533. Fraud, 15,979. Homicide, 13,099. Kidnapping, 2,521. Sexual assault, 15,811. And weapons offenses, 13,423. Gonzalez said that the staggering numbers were a direct result of the Biden-Harris administration's policies, and they absolutely were. Now, by the way, under Trump, these people were coming across too. The difference is they're being caught and sent back. These people are being sent over the border and they're being picked up. And if they don't have an immediate, newspaper article sitting right in front of them at the time, they're just being released. That's what happened with that Peruvian drug lord, whatever he was, assassin. These people are just being released in the country. And the problem is, these people aren't coming in to try and find a new life. They didn't just suddenly discover Jesus when they got over here. They're committing those crimes. Look at the TDA gang in Chicago, in Denver, in Aurora, Colorado. Now they're in New York. They're in Chicago. They're in Los Angeles. They're doing the same thing they were doing in those other countries. But they get a brand new lease on life. And it's better in this country because we don't arrest anyone in this country. So they go to Los Angeles and New York. Hey, they commit a murder, they'll be out in 15 minutes. Maybe that's an exaggeration. But if they commit a hit and run or they're driving drunk or whatever, they definitely get off. Or a weapons charge, forget about it. You're not going to see any jail time. You won't even see the inside of a jail cell. They'll just sign you up, give you a date 6 months from now to go to court, and then you'll be released. So they're finding it real good here. It's real good in the United States for these criminals. So, but this is Kamala Harris. And by the way, everyone, you want to see more of this? Elect Kamala Harris. I keep telling people this. You want more of this? Okay, elect Kamala Harris. Because she's going to give you all of this you want. This is none of this crap. She can sit on the border, by the way, in front of a wall that Trump built, which was kind of ironic. She can sit in front of, and of course, she can sit in front of the wall that Trump built and scream about how harsh she's going to be on the border, how she's going to shut the border down, and we already know it's bullshit. She's not going to do any of that. She's going to talk about how Republicans aren't letting her do it for whatever reason, even though she doesn't need Republican support to actually follow the law, because we already have those laws. That border bill that they had, oh, by the way, Fox News, they were talking about that border bill. Apparently that border bill was just shipping money off to the other countries. That's what it was. So it wasn't just that, okay, we're going to hire some border agents and some judges, which, by the way, wouldn't have stopped people crossing the border. But it is also shoving billions of dollars into the pockets of Guatemala and Honduras and Mexico and Venezuela, which would accomplish absolutely zip. So there's a reason no Republicans supported that, quote, immigration bill, end quote. The reason even the writers, the original Republican writers who helped sponsor that bill didn't sign on to the bill. It had nothing to do with Trump. The bill was shit. That's why they didn't support it. That's why it didn't get one Republican vote. Contrary to popular belief, not all Republicans love Trump. Okay, there are a lot of Republicans that aren't keen on Trump, so him telling them not to do something isn't going to necessarily change their mind. But not one Republican of the 218 in there voted for that bill. That's got to tell you something. So the bipartisan bullshit's not true. But hey, this is what you want. If you believe in democracy and you think Kamala Harris is going to push democracy, well, good for you. You go vote. You celebrate democracy, and when Kamala Harris is elected, you will get democracy good and hard. All right. I didn't make that up. That's somebody else made that up. By the way, the news just keeps getting worse for Kamala Harris. Tomorrow's the deadline. The dock workers are supposed to go on strike. So 45,000 dock workers. We talked about this last week. 45,000 dock workers are supposed to go on strike. I mean, we just got inflation down to like between 2.2 and 2.4%, which is still higher than it should be, but at least it's in the vicinity of where it should be. 2% is the cutoff. Of course, Trump had it at 1.3%. But if these guys go on strike, guess what's going to happen? We're going to have our supply again damaged, and inflation is going to go right back up again. Joe Biden, who I really, honestly, I believe Joe Biden is actually trying to F Kamala Harris. He really doesn't like her. And you can see with what he keeps saying. I know he doesn't talk much, but when he does, he just says things that are not helping Kamala. This is one of them. Apparently, he's already said, well, yeah, they have to go on strike. And the president does have the authority to say it is illegal to strike. And this would be a pretty good reason to say, hey, it's illegal for you to strike. We're trying to get the economy fixed. He refuses to do it. He said, I'm not going to do that. I'm pro-union, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I love when the left fights. I love when the left fights. We're pro-union. We're not gonna prevent them from striking. If they want to strike, they're allowed to strike. And there is no way the owners of these businesses, these shipping places, are going to negotiate what they want. I mean, these guys want like a 35% raise. They want more time off. They want less working out. There is no way they're going to go for that. Which, by the way, even if they did, that's still going to raise inflation. So if they do go on strike, and they go on strike, let's say for only 2 weeks, 3 weeks, this is going to impact supply for the next 3 months. So even if they go for a little bit, it's going to be really bad for our economy. And by the way, this is one thing. One of the reasons I brought this up was not necessarily because I wanted to talk about this, because we already knew this was coming. It's just is coming real quick, like tomorrow. What I wanted to talk about is Kamala Harris's bullshit about needing to place price caps on people, on businesses, because they're gouging. No, they're not gouging. How do we know? It's because of bullshit like this, where the longshoremen are actually, the longshoremen know that it's October. Kamala, the Democrat, has to run for president. They're basically blackmailing the Harris campaign and the Biden campaign before he dropped out. They are blackmailing them, saying, make us happy or we will F with your campaign. And that happy means I need a 40% raise. That's what they're doing. By the way, this isn't the first time they've done this. And they always do it with a Democrat. And they always do it with the Democrat in power. This will never happen if a Republican is in power. They will never do this. Why? Republicans hate unions. Because unions do shit like this and try to force the government's hand. But all this price gouging stuff, hey, you give these guys a 35% raise, what do you think the dock owners are going to do? They're going to raise the rates of shipping. And then suddenly, it's going to come down to us. And this is the whole problem. Economics is three-dimensional. There is rarely one cause to inflation. And 99.99998% of the time, it is not because people are price gouging. Sure, if there's a storm or something, and like there is with Helene in the east, you've got those idiots that are price gouging, but those are few and far between, and it's already illegal. They'll get arrested for that. There's always something else. There's transporting the items. There is delivering the items. There is gas that comes to the delivery of the items. There's the creation of the items. There's lots of things. Your fruit has gone up. Well, why has my oranges gone up? Your orange has gone up because gas has gone up $2.50 a gallon since Biden took over. And someone's got to drive that orange from point A to point B and spend $4.50 for a gallon of gas. That's where it is. It's not that the grocery store, Vons, has decided that, well, we're gonna gouge. Come on. So that's great. That's gonna be just great. And by the way, I'm being sarcastic. I don't think it's great. I think this is terrible. I think it's terrible because even if Kamala Harris loses the election, which, by the way, I think she's going to. I think she's going to lose the election. I think she's going to lose big. Even if Kamala Harris, vote, by the way, keep voting. Vote, I won't say that. It's illegal. But anyway, vote. If Kamala Harris loses this election, this will still affect us. The longshoreman is not going to fix it by January 21st. It is still going to affect us. I told my wife yesterday, this is coming, and she said, I didn't hear about it. Of course you didn't hear about it. No one's talking about it. But it's on top of us right now. It's probably going to happen. The longshoremen are not even talking to the dock workers, the dock owners, and they've already said, we're going on the 1st, whether you like it or not. And then you got this idiot president who has effed up every policy that he has made, has effed up the country, whether it be foreign policy, economic policy, social policy. He has effed up everything he can, has already said, no, I'm not going to make it illegal. I'm not going to do what Reagan did.